The enemy opposite them was the battle-hardened Volkssturm Panzer Division I, Hermann Göring, supported by elements of the 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division. They owned the high ground, and they used it to rain down death with terrifying efficiency. The threat of a mass German armored assault to finally drive the Allies into the sea was a constant, chilling fear that gripped every man in the line. The morning of February 26th dawned cold and gray, a typical Anzio day punctuated by the sporadic crump of mortar and the distant mechanical growl of German vehicles. For the men of the 30th Infantry Regiment, huddled in their waterlogged foxholes, it felt like just another day in hell. But this day would be different. This day, a man named Audie Murphy would etch his name into the annals of military history with an act of almost unbelievable courage. The German attack began just as the weak winter sun broke through the clouds. It was a full-throated assault. Infantry, supported by tanks, surged forward. The American lines buckled under the sheer weight of the German advance. Machine gun fire ripped through the air, and the earth trembled with the explosion of shells. Murphy's company was taking heavy casualties. His best friend was hit, a devastating blow that seemed to momentarily freeze time. But Audie Murphy wasn't the kind to freeze. He was the kind to get angry. As his men were forced to fall back, Murphy saw an M10 tank destroyer nearby that had been hit and was now burning. The crew was dead. Most soldiers would see a burning metal coffin, a death trap waiting for a catastrophic explosion. Murphy saw an opportunity. He ordered his remaining men to retreat to a safer position, telling them he'd cover their withdrawal. Then, with German infantry and tanks closing in, he did something that defied all logic and instinct for self-preservation. He climbed onto the burning tank destroyer. From this exposed, precarious perch, he swung the vehicle's .50 caliber machine gun toward the advancing enemy and opened fire. The heavy machine gun roared to life, spitting a stream of lead that cut down the German infantry like a scythe. He was a lone figure, silhouetted against the smoke and flames, a one-man army holding back the tide. The Germans were stunned. Who was this madman? They concentrated their fire on him. Bullets pinged off the metal hull around him. He was wounded in the leg, but he kept firing. For over an hour, Audie Murphy single-handedly fought off an entire German company. He was a whirlwind of controlled fury, directing his fire with deadly precision, repelling wave after wave of attackers. He only stopped when he ran out of ammunition. Bleeding and exhausted, he finally climbed down from the smoldering wreck, stumbled back to his men, and immediately organized a counterattack. Inspired by his incredible bravery, his men rallied. They pushed the Germans back, reclaiming the ground they had lost. When his commanding officers later asked him why he did it, Murphy's response was simple and understated. They were killing my friends. It was a testament to his character, a quiet, unassuming man who possessed a core of absolute steel. His actions that day earned him the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. He was just 19 years old. Audie Murphy's story at Anzio is more than just a tale of battlefield heroics. It's a powerful reminder of what ordinary people are capable of in extraordinary circumstances. He wasn't a superhero. He was a young man from Texas who loved his friends and refused to let them be overrun. He saw his duty and he performed it, far beyond any reasonable expectation. This single act of valor was a turning point, not just in that specific skirmish, but in the morale of the men fighting in the brutal Anzio stalemate. It showed that even when outnumbered and outgunned, the will of a single determined soldier could change the course of a battle. Audie Murphy became a legend, a symbol of the resilience and courage of the American soldier. His legacy is a powerful story of bravery, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of war. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more. In the sector held by Barden's company, the front lines were a stalemate. A brutal, unchanging landscape separated them from the enemy. Nearly 2 miles of open, shell-cratered fields and winding drainage ditches made up this stretch of no man's land. It was a vast, desolate expanse. So wide that it paradoxically offered a kind of safety zone from the crack of a rifle or the chatter of a machine gun. In this part of the war, typical engagements happened at distances well under 1,000 yards. Here, the distance itself was the shield. But this false sense of security was shattered daily, not by bullets, but by the terror that rained from the sky. The primary threat wasn't a soldier you could see, but the unseen hand of the artilleryman. The constant fear was the shell that could land anywhere, anytime. And even more than the artillery, it was the dreaded Nebelwerfer. They announced their arrival with a horrifying, shrieking scream